Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new here, welcome. My name is Braden Timmons, and today we are finally going to be ranking every single movie in the Friday the 13th franchise. This video has been a long time coming. If you guys are new here, just know that I did just finish reviewing every single Friday the 13th film over the course of the last year and a half, I guess you can say. For those of you that have been around, you guys can tell the newbies that, yeah, it took me a little while to get through the Friday the 13th series. I don't know why that is, actually. I just think that something kept coming up, and, you know, watching an entire franchise of movies is pretty hard to do, but it's something I have to get better at doing because there is a lot of, you know, slashers that are being brought back, you know, to the big screen, and I'd like to be able to talk about those with you guys. So, you know, I kind of got to get better at doing that. So I'm trying as hard as I can to think of what my next review series is going to be. I'm trying to look at the lineup of movies and seeing, you know, when those can kind of fit into the video schedule. But today we are talking about Friday the 13th. And obviously, guys, we are going to disagree about, you know, where I rank certain things and where you guys rank certain things. So wherever it is you guys rank these movies, that's your guys' opinions, and this is my opinion. So, you know, please respect my opinions. I respect all your guys' opinions whenever you guys leave opinions in the comment section. So feel free to leave your guys' comments down below and let me know what your guys' thoughts are and how you guys rank the Friday the 13th franchise, because we are going to disagree, and just know that that is okay. That's what allows us to have conversations and, you know, be productive with it. So this is just going to be my ranking, and my ranking, how I'm going to rank this criteria is as followed. So we are going to be basing this on how fun the movie is, like based on the overall stories that are being told throughout these films. The characters that we follow in these stories is obviously a big one, because, you know, you got to have at least some sort of good characterization to be able to care about a final girl or a final guy that, you know, you're following throughout the course of the movie. And then, of course, the kills within the movies. The kills is obviously always going to be something. Some of them, looking at my list right now, I feel like that they do have some good kills, but the overall story is kind of what drags it down. And this has nothing to do with the way that I rated them, you know, in the past either. So just keep all that in mind. But I think I've rambled on long enough. Here is my ranking for the Friday the 13th franchise. So let's get into the ranking. Coming in last place at number 12 is going to Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. I just really don't like a whole lot in this movie at all, if anything. I hate the way that Jason looks. I hate the sound effects that he literally makes in the very beginning of the movie. Just every time he gets shot, he has like that sound effect that goes along with it. I have no idea what the heck that entails. I really don't like Stephen Freeman, who is the main protagonist that we're following throughout the course of the movie. I think that they could have picked somebody much stronger, and I honestly think that, you know, they could have written his character just a lot better. And also just really the story as a whole of Jason possessing other people's bodies in order to find a Voorhees so that way he can resurrect and everything. I do have to say that one of the redeeming qualities of this movie is the very, very end, when Freddy Krueger, his hand comes up and he drags Jason's mask into hell. I do think that that is really cool. But other than that, guys, this movie is nothing to write home about. Not a really big fan of it, and that's why that's number 12. Coming up next at number 11 is Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Now, I'm sure that many of you guys remember last summer when I was in the midst of my Friday the 13th review series that I just hated this movie. Honestly, I really wasn't sure what one was going to take the cake for last place. Was it going to be Jason Goes to Hell, or was it going to be Friday the 13th Part 5? I think that the thing that really redeems this movie for me is the fact that it still feels like, you know, that summer campy type of Friday the 13th movie, but I really hate how it's not Jason that is the one that is responsible for, you know, killing all of these teenagers. It's actually a guy by the name of Roy Burns. He has a son, Joey, who's killed by another nutcase that is at this loony house that Tommy Jarvis is at in Friday the 13th Part 5, and I just don't like that. For some reason, I just hate it. I hate it a lot. Now, Jason looks okay for the most part, or Jason looks okay for the most part, but I really don't like the idea of them having a copycat. Tommy Jarvis is definitely not likable throughout the course of the movie at all. I think that this is probably the weakest Tommy Jarvis that we have of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, that being parts 4, 5, and 6. But this middle chapter just really doesn't do it for me in terms of him. I mean, the kills are all pretty cool, if you ask me. It's got some really good kills in it, but just this overall movie is not one for me. Bringing us into the top 10 is Jason X. Now, this is actually one where I think some people might have it a little bit higher on the list, simply because this is a very, very fun movie. I will give it that. Jason X is an absolute blast of a movie. Is it a great movie though? No, it's not a great movie. The concept of it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, this movie takes place like some 500 plus years into the future, and it's literally in space for most of the movie. The concept is absolutely nuts. The only reason that this movie exists is because they were trying to keep the Friday the 13th franchise alive while they were trying to get Freddy versus Jason off of the ground. So they were just like, you know what? What's a ridiculous concept that you have for me? Why don't we do Jason in space? Perfect. Let's do it. So when it comes down to, the development of this movie simply only exists just to keep the franchise alive, and it is a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I have a very fun time watching this movie. This is definitely one of those films where you can probably put on at a Halloween party. People can, drink and enjoy themselves and have a lot of fun with it, but the story and the characters definitely are nothing to write home about. This movie, though, does have some really damn good kills, and I will give it that. The kills in this movie are probably going to make it into some of my top kills. When I do the top 13 kills in the Friday the 13th franchise ranking, I think like 2 of these kills might make it into the top 13, because there are some really damn good kills in the movie. But the ridiculousness, the concept, the characters, that all kind of really pushes it back for me. So that's why, unfortunately, this comes in at number 10. Coming in at number 9 might actually be a very unpopular opinion, and to me, it's the original Friday the 13th, the 1980 version of Friday the 13th. I personally have never really found Friday the 13th, the original, to be that great of a film. I appreciate it because it's what kicked off the dawn of the franchise and everything like that, but for the most part, I consider the movie to be fairly weak. The characters throughout the movie is alright, the kills are acceptable, but they're definitely not as great as they were, as, they move forward into the franchise. And I get it, guys, they had a very low budget, but overall, the movie just it's not always been for me. Like, I love Friday the 13th Part 2, but I'm not a really big fan of the first one. Like, if Friday the 13th Part 2 was the first one, then I actually might like the first one that kicked off the franchise a little bit more. But to me, Friday the 13th, the original, has not really been that great. I do like the final confrontation with Pamela and Alice, and I know that this really kind of kicked off the story as to, Jason's mother, and then we got to know a little bit about Jason in this movie, but it's just never been my type of movie, so unfortunately, that's why that comes in at number 9 on my list of the Friday the 13th movies. This one, you guys are going to be like, how the hell did this make it higher than the original Friday the 13th? And that goes to number 8 is Jason Takes Manhattan, which is Friday the 13th Part 8. Say whatever the hell you want about this movie. I have an absolute blast with this film. I literally laughed my ass off during it. The story is absolutely ludicrous, but it's one that, I get. It's a group of high schoolers, and they're taking a cruise to New York City, and they're taking it from Camp Crystal Lake. A ship is leaving from Camp Crystal Lake. And I know what you guys are thinking right now. Well, I thought you said that this had to do with story and everything like that. It definitely has a story to it. Is it a good story? No. But is it a fun story? Absolutely. I have an absolute blast with this movie, and the main character is for sure nothing to write home about. I think the thing that really makes this movie for me is Kane Hodder's performance as Jason. I think that this is the second movie that he was playing Jason, so I think that he was getting very, very comfortable in the role, and you could see that he owns every time he's on frame. Now, the reason that this is a bit lower on the list is because Jason also looks like a slime ball the entire movie. I feel like that there are certain times in this movie where Jason could have actually been dried off a little bit. Like, he's not in the water, but so then he ends up, being dry for a little bit, and then it starts raining and he gets wet again. But no, he's literally a slime fest the entire movie. That is kind of a bit of a downgrade for me. and a little attention to detail that kind of really irks me a little bit. But for the most part, guys, the kills in the movie's great. Kane Hodder's great, and I just literally can't help but laugh my ass off and have a great time with this movie every single time I watch it. Again, I know that this is probably an unpopular opinion, but this is just my opinion, and to me, Friday the 13th Part 8 takes number 8. Coming up next at number 7 is Friday the 13th Part 3, which, as many of us know, is the movie that Jason ended up getting his iconic hockey mask. I think the one thing that I really enjoy about Part 3 is that this movie, as you guys know, I'm a giant Halloween fan, but this movie actually has a lot more Halloween vibes than the original Friday the 13th. I know that one of the things that people say about the original 1980 version of Friday the 13th is that, you know, they were really building off of the concept of Halloween. I actually think that this film does so even more, because they shoot Jason kind of like he's Michael Myers in a few different ways. And I said this in my review as well. Like when they're shooting Jason through the sheets before he gets his hockey mask, and when the camera is just kind of still and Jason steps into frame and you just see behind Jason. So there's a few different scenes that kind of remind me of Halloween, and I actually kind of really like that in Friday the 13th Part 3. The movie is a lot of fun. Characters aren't really anything to write home about, and I think that I keep saying that because a lot of the characters in this franchise is really nothing to write home about. The kills are acceptable, but the 3D effects kind of takes me out of the movie every now and then. But overall, I think that this is a really fun entry in the franchise, so that is number 7. Bringing us in to number 6 is Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Now, I know when I did my initial review on this movie, I didn't really like Friday the 13th Part 7. I had seen it multiple times growing up, but kind of like watching it today, I didn't really like it. I have actually watched it a lot more since I got the Friday the 13th, that Ultimate Collection from Shout Factory, and I actually like it more and more every time I watch it. And actually, my good friend Peter Anthony, he is doing a follow-up to this film called Roseblood, a Friday the 13th fan film that will be out later on this year. I believe it comes out on Halloween, so be on the lookout for that. I know that they're in post-production with that, and I'm really excited to see where that story is going to continue. And this was also Kane Hodder's first appearance as Jason, and I think that he really crushes it. I like Jason's look in this movie. That's probably why it's so high on my list, or at least it's getting up there on my list, you know. And Tina is actually Tina Shepard. She is a telekinesis girl, and she is actually the reason that Jason comes back. This was also originally supposed to be a crossover with Carrie, which could have been interesting if you ask me, but they could not obtain the rights to get Carrie to, you know, come over and do that crossover with Jason. But they had to do it in a little bit different of a way, and I think that Tina is actually one of those characters that we can get behind. She had a very traumatic experience as a little girl, and it's about this point in my ranking where the characters actually do become likable. Tina is one of those characters that we can actually get behind. I actually like her a lot as a character, and like I said, this movie has really kind of grown on me since I reviewed it initially this past summer. I've watched it, like I said, a couple more times, and I just really like it more and more. So I think the kills in this movie is great. This is also the movie where we get introduced to the iconic sleeping bag kill. So this movie definitely has a special place in the Friday the 13th franchise. So the kills are awesome. Jason has a menacing look to him, and there's actually a few moments in this scene where you're actually on the edge of your seat when Jason is chasing after a few of these characters. So that's number 6. Bringing us into the top 5 is Friday the 13th, 2009. That's right, guys. In the top 5 is Friday the 13th, 2009. Now, it was around this time where we were getting reboot after reboot after reboot, and I definitely think that this is one of the best reboots that we have gotten of a modern horror slasher. I definitely think that it has some great carnage candy. Clay Miller, played by Jared Padalecki, is actually a likable character because you understand exactly why he is at Camp Crystal Lake. He is not one that is just out at Camp Crystal Lake partying or anything like that. He is simply there trying to find his sister Whitney that went missing a few months prior. And that's definitely something that I can get behind. I really like Jared Padalecki in the movie. Daniel Panabaker is great in the movie, and all the other characters are just there to serve as the body count, and the body count is really high. I think that Derek Mears is an absolutely menacing Jason. Jason is absolutely terrifying to look at in this movie. Definitely probably one of the best ones. So he's absolutely terrifying. The kills in the movie is absolutely great, and the cinematography is also really damn good, but that's also expected. So it's a damn good looking movie. Friday the 13th, 2009 is number 5. Bringing us to the top 4 is Freddy vs. Jason. Now, this film serves as a very special place in my heart, and if you guys have been around the channel for a while, then you guys know that, because Freddy vs. Jason is a film that I literally grew up with. I grew up with it. I was in 2nd grade when I saw it for the first time. That's also the time that it was in theaters. As you can see behind me, I've got my VHS copy right there of Freddy vs. Jason, my buddy Grindhouse Grotto, Joe, he sent that to me sometime last year, or within the last year and a half. Thank you so much. Go subscribe to his channel. He is coming back to YouTube after a very, very long absence, but he sent that to me, so I always have that up because I absolutely love Freddy vs. Jason. But Freddy vs. Jason, it's awesome, man. The final act is what really does this for me, and why it's deserving of being in the top 4. Because the fight between Freddy and Jason at the end is, I think, everything you would want in a final slasher showdown. I mean, it is brutal, freaking bloody. They really just beat the holy hell out of each other, and it makes the entire movie worth it. And even throughout the movie, Freddy and Jason both have, times to shine throughout the course of the movie. They each have, like, their scenes where it's like all Freddy or all Jason, and then I really like how they bring them together. Yes, most of the movie feels like it's a nightmare film, so even when I get to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, I'm going to, obviously have this involved in that ranking as well, because this movie definitely is more of a nightmare film than it is a Friday the 13th film. But I also think that it was very wise of them to have that third act take place at Camp Crystal Lake. I definitely think that there is more of a fight ground that you can have at a camp than there is in a house, which I'm guessing might have happened if they weren't at Camp Crystal Lake. But ultimately, guys, the third act is what really does it for me, and the story. I actually think that they did a really good job at telling a story that really is able to bring these two icons together. So, love Freddy vs. Jason. That's number 4. Bringing us into the top 3 is Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. Not only is this a really entertaining Friday the 13th movie, this is a freaking just damn entertaining movie, period. Jason is absolutely menacing in this film, and most of the characters are actually likable. Specifically Trish and Tommy Jarvis. And this movie actually works with the more serious tone that, the Friday the 13th franchise was clearly going for from the get-go. You can tell that they were trying to be more serious than it actually is, and I feel like that's why the franchise struggled as much as it did, especially financially and even with critics and stuff like that, especially for like the first 5 movies. And then they started to get more and more lighthearted and cheesy, and I feel like that is exactly what works better for the Friday the 13th franchise. But I definitely think that part 4 has that serious tone, and it actually works for the tone that it's going for. And not only that, it also feels like that this is a very cohesive story with Friday Part 3, because it picks up literally right after the events of the previous installment, with Jason being brought to a morgue and him breaking out and getting right back on his killing spree. And speaking of kills, the kills in this movie are absolutely awesome. I'm very positive that at least one of them is going to be making the top 13 kills in the Friday the 13th franchise, but The Final Chapter comes in at number 4. Bringing us to our runner-up is Friday the 13th Part 2. Now, me personally, Sackhead Jason has always been the scariest Jason in my eyes. I think that Sackhead is absolutely terrifying. Part 2 is actually the first Friday the 13th film that I saw, which is also probably why earlier in my ranking when I said that the original has never really been that great of a film to me, I think it's because I was always introduced to Jason first, and my dad always talked to me about Jason, as a slasher and not his mom. So when I was a kid, if I probably got asked, who was the original killer in Friday the 13th, and I answered Jason, Ghostface would have killed me. I would have gotten it wrong. But part 2 definitely means something to me, man, because I love Sackhead Jason. I love the kills in this movie. I actually really, really like Ginny as a final girl. Like, I had a huge crush on her when I was growing up. So this movie really does mean something to me, very much like Freddy vs. Jason does. And part 2, I've always just had a great time with, you know, with the kills, with the story, and everything like that. So Friday the 13th part 2 is number 2. But guys, coming in at number 1 is Friday the 13th part 6, Jason Lives. Do I even need to answer what makes this damn movie so great? I mean, is it the opening with the James Bond style opening? And even before the James Bond style opening, the opening with Jason, literally how he's resurrected, is absolutely insane. And this has the best Tommy Jarvis, Tom Matthews. By the way, guys, Tom Matthews is officially a producer on My Special Boy, a Friday the 13th fan film. That's a fan film that my company, Bat Productions, is involved with. I'm also going to be in that movie. So the fact that literally one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise is helping us produce this movie is such an honor. I cannot wait to hopefully meet him, and it's just really a dream come true. But anyway, back to what makes this movie so damn great. Not only the James Bond style opening, but the opening of how Jason is resurrected, who is played by C.J. Graham in this movie masterfully. I think C.J. Graham is one of the best Jasons. Literally with lightning striking a metal rod and it electrocuting Jason, bringing Jason back, literally killing Tommy Jarvis's friend. He punches his hand through the dude's chest and literally punches his heart right through his back. It is absolutely freaking awesome. And this movie literally is the movie that did what it needed to do for the Friday the 13th franchise around that time. And it gave it some fun, some lightheartedness. And this movie even goes as far as actually having campers at camp, not Crystal Lake. What the hell is it called in Friday? I'm forgetting what the camp is called in Friday the 13th part 6. But this movie actually has campers. It actually makes sense as to why camp counselors are, you know, coming back to the camp and everything like that. So in the end, guys, Friday the 13th part 6 is an absolute blast. I freaking love it. That's why it takes number 1. I just think that it's easily the best in the franchise, and that's how I rank the Friday the 13th franchise, guys. So with all that being said, post your guys' comments down below. Let me know, what do you guys think of the Friday the 13th franchise? How would you guys rank these films? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Whatever you guys' thoughts are, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you guys like this, don't forget to join me on my journey to 5,000 subscribers, and I will see you guys in my next video.